Hello, hello. Um, Welcome to our next Battery Earth event. We're excited that you could join us. Um, we are going to start with Michael Sutton, who's going to tell us more about the Goldman Prize. And then, oh, we lost Randall. We're going to talk to one of the previous prize winners, Randall Arauz, who is actually in the field in Cocos Islands in the Galapagos. So what we're going to do is probably do a half an hour of a presentation and then just go right into discussion. So if you all have any questions, what we're going to do is, just because the connection with Randall is a little on and off, is if you have any questions for him, if you could put them in the chat, because he's going to have a little bit of a delay in talking to him. So I hope he hops back on. We're able to do that. So without further ado, I will just introduce Michael Sutton. He's the executive director of the Goldman Prize, Environmental Prize.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, Fatih, and thank you to Battery Powered for and the Battery for allowing us to promote Battery Earth. This is one of our first full features as part of the Battery Earth series, and we just awarded the 2021 Goldman Environmental Prize earlier this week, and so we decided to focus some of our program tonight on the Goldman Prize. We are going to be joined, if not already, by one of our past Goldman Prize winners, Randall Arauz, who is from Costa Rica. But let me start by introducing the Goldman Prize itself. I've been the executive director since 2018, but the Goldman Prize is far older than that. It was founded in 1990, 32 years ago. The Goldman Prize is the Nobel Prize for the environment. We have awarded the prize, we award the prize each year to one prize winner from each of the six inhabited continents of the world. So Europe, Asia, North America, South America, and so forth. We have now over 206 prize winners from more than 90 countries. And it is considered, the Goldman Prize is considered the world's most prestigious award for environmental activism. We focus our attention on the work of grassroots activists around the world. We don't give the prize for lifetime achievement. We don't give the prize to policymakers or government officials in general, unless they've gone way beyond the call of duty. Instead, the prize goes to ordinary people who've achieved extraordinary things. And that is, we have some great examples to share with you this evening. I must also say that many Goldman Prize winners around the world put their lives on the line for the environment in ways that we can hardly imagine in this country. Many of them are subject to risks of all kinds: cybersecurity risks, personal security risks, risks to their reputations, persecution by governments, persecutions by corporate forces, security forces, and so forth. So at the Goldman Foundation, we have a defensive prize winners program that seeks to protect these folks and keep them safe and secure. We can't guarantee their safety. We've had 3 prize winners killed in the line of duty over the years. One in Nigeria, one in Mexico, and the other in Honduras. Most recently in 2015. So this is very real. The threats to environmental defenders are increasing every year around the world, and the pandemic made that situation worse. Not only did the pandemic limit public gatherings in most countries, but many people in rural environments and indigenous people were hit by the pandemic much harder than we were in the US and other developed countries. So because they didn't have access to good medical care, they don't have access to vaccinations. So I spend well over 6 figures each year trying to keep our prize winners safe and secure so they can go about their work unimpaired by the risks associated with their work. But as with most activists, sometimes if you tell them, you really shouldn't go to that rally because it's not safe, and the answer is, I'm organizing that rally. So you can't keep an activist down, and we don't intend to do that. But tonight, it's my privilege to share with you the 2021 Goldman Prize winners just announced this week. I'm going to play we do a profile video on all of our prize winners, one from each continent, and I'm going to play those for you in a minute. But first, We're really honored tonight to be joined by Randall Arauz, one of our prize winners from 2010. He won the Goldman Prize for South and Central America in 2010 for his efforts to end the practice of shark finning in Costa Rica. As most of you probably know, shark fin soup is a delicacy in China, and literally hundreds of thousands of sharks are killed. Millions of sharks are killed around the world every year to satisfy the shark fin trade to China and other Asian countries. In 2010, Randall was awarded the Goldman Prize for having successfully ran a campaign to end the shark fin trade in Costa Rica, the practice of shark finning, which is catching a shark, cutting the fins off, throwing the animal still alive back into the ocean where it dies. The practice has since been banned in the United States and many other countries. In 2011, California passed legislation to ban the shark fin trade as well. So we no longer allow the sale of shark fin soup or the possession of shark fins in California. There's also a bill before Congress right now in the United States Congress that would do that nationwide. There are about 8 or 10 states now that ban the shark fin trade, including California. So Randall is involved in a global effort to save sharks as the most important apex predator in the oceans. And his work helped empower the work that we did here in California back in 2011 to ban the shark fin trade here. So you can direct your questions to Randall, and he'll be involved in the discussion of the videos. But unless there are any questions up front, I'm happy to play the prize winner videos, and then we'll have a good discussion and opportunity for questions after that. Seeing no questions, I'm going to share my screen and get the video started. Let me know if there's any problem hearing this.
When I was growing up as a little girl, we lived the American dream, and we lived off the land, and we had clean air, clean water, and everything was so wonderful, and we weren't sick.
St. James Parish sits on both sides of the Mississippi River, protected by the same levees that failed New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. But other forces have threatened the community for generations. Sharon Levine was one of the first to call attention to the issue.
But 3 or 4 years ago, I lost my neighbor on my right side, and I lost a neighbor on my left side, both from cancer. These industries are poisoning our air and poisoning our water.
With over 150 petrochemical plants along an 80-mile stretch of the river, the region has among the highest concentrations of toxic chemicals in the United States. And the predominantly African-American community has cancer rates 50 times higher than the national average, lending the area the morbid nickname, Cancer Alley.
We were going to the health meetings. I have grandkids that are sick right now. We'd leave in anger and despair and hopelessness. And so we were angry inside, just angry, roaring.
Sharon didn't have experience as an activist, but in November 2018, when the Chinese chemical company Wanhua proposed construction of a plastics plant in St. James Parish, she mobilized her neighbors against it.
We had almost 20 people in the garage. I'm sitting up there directing the meeting, didn't know what in the world I was doing. The more they said there was no hope, the more something inside of me riled up. This project will have devastating effects.
Sharon decided to dedicate herself to working full-time for environmental justice. She founded Rise St. James and soon proved herself to be a natural leader.
We get the word out by doing media work on the radio. Billboards, flyers, ads in the newspaper, letters to the parish council members. We do a lot of education to the public.
Thanks to the intense grassroots campaign that Rise St. James carried out, Wanhua halted construction of the $1.25 billion plastics plant in September 2019.
And we were so happy and excited when the parish council would not accept their application. The people in the community spoke up. That was victory to me.
That victory helped prevent the generation of 1 million pounds of liquid hazardous waste each year and protected residents from additional air and water pollution. But before RISE could hit pause, Formosa Plastics, a Taiwan-based corporation, announced its plan to build a factory a mile from Sharon's home.
We're gonna stop Formosa. I don't care what nobody say. The governor, anyone. I'm not afraid. God told me Formosa's not gonna do that to us.
For outstanding environmental achievement for North America, the 2021 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Sharon Levine, St. James Parish, Louisiana. In the remote northeast corner of Peru lie millions of acres of pristine Amazon rainforest. It is one of the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet. 29 indigenous communities live along the surrounding borders of this area. They consider the rivers and land sacred.
Somos los guardianes del bosque.
We are the guardians of the forest because we have cared for it since the time of our ancestors. It sustains us and gives us life.
Liz Chikahe Churai, a leader of the indigenous Bora community, has spent over 20 years fighting the encroachment of illegal gold mining, logging, and overfishing. But protecting this vast area has been challenging.
¿Por qué la importancia del medio ambiente?
Why the importance of the environment and forests? We found that many government leaders really disagreed with taking care of these things, and they did not understand our reality as indigenous peoples.
Pueblos indígenas.
Working alongside indigenous activist Benjamin Rodriguez, Liz realized that designating the area as a national park would provide the greatest protections for the environment and people. But a proposal of this magnitude would require widespread support.
Sin el consentimiento de...
Without the consent of the communities, there would have been no way forward. So it was fundamental that our people get to know each other and unite together under a shared vision for this place.
Partnering with NGOs and scientists, Liz and her team worked with communities to map out the area and document its biodiversity. Through education and outreach, they organized a broad coalition of indigenous leaders that supported the creation of Yaguas National Park, but they still needed to convince lawmakers.
En las reuniones que tuvimos primero,
in the initial meetings, private interests and even the regional government opposed the idea. They wanted to negotiate, but I wasn't there to negotiate. I was there to defend the rights of indigenous peoples and natural resources. So we had to go to the capital in Lima to speak with the Minister of Environment and Congress. We even traveled to Europe, where we gained the support of international partners.
After 3 years of organizing and campaigning, in 2018, Liz and her allies saw their efforts come to fruition. Peru declared the creation of Yaguas National Park, giving the highest level of protection to over 2 million acres of Amazon rainforest, while maintaining the rights of indigenous communities. Sadly, Benjamin Rodriguez, who worked alongside Liz in achieving this tremendous victory, passed away in 2020 due to COVID-19. Despite this heartbreaking loss, Liz continues to push forward.
He was a generous man and a fighter for the rights of the people in the forests. So my wish is to continue educating people that nature is our greatest wealth. This is my message, as we are the true caretakers of the forest.
For outstanding environmental achievement for South and Central America, the 2021 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Liz Chikahe Churai, Loreto, Peru. With their coat of armor and reclusive habits, pangolins do their best to avoid trouble. These scaly mammals, found in Asia and Africa, hide away in the day and spend their nights dining on ants and termites.
The pangolin is a special species. They are harmless and shy. When threatened, they curl up in a ball to protect themselves with their hard outer scales.
But pangolins are the world's most trafficked species. It's estimated that over 1 million have been poached worldwide in the past decade. Vietnam is a particular hotspot.
Pangolins are killed for their meat as a delicacy and for their scales to be used in traditional Chinese medicine. But there is no scientific evidence that their meat is nutritious or that their scales have medicinal value. Seeing the disappearance of pangolins, I felt that extinction was coming and they could soon vanish forever.
Determined to protect this critically endangered animal, Thai Van Nguyen founded Save Vietnam's Wildlife in 2014, a nonprofit dedicated to conservation, education, and advocacy, as well as rescue and rehabilitation.
The biggest challenge in pangolins protection is changing the mindset and habits of the Vietnamese people. When I started working on pangolin conservation, almost no one knew anything about them. Now, not only do more people know about them, but they love them and want to protect them.
Thai then turned his attention to Vietnam's illegal pangolin trade.
So we built an anti-poaching team with the aim of assisting government agencies in strengthening law enforcement.
Thai personally trained the rangers. They patrol 330,000 acres of forest, destroying illegal camps and traps. Their work has led to an 80% decrease in illegal activities. Rehabilitating rescued pangolins is also a high priority.
After rescuing pangolins, we take care of them, feed them, cure them from diseases, and then release them back into the wild.
In just a few years, Thai has brought global awareness to the pangolin's plight, becoming the face of pangolin protection worldwide. Using this influence, he helped broker an international ban on the illegal trade. But there is more work to be done. Now, with the Vietnamese government's support, Thai is developing policies that he hopes will bring pangolins back to their rightful place in the forest.
Working with pangolins is my greatest passion. It's a joy to dedicate myself to the restoration and protection of this wild species.
For outstanding environmental achievement for Asia, the 2021 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Thai Van Nguyen, Cuc Pho, Vietnam. When a tsunami caused the meltdown of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in 2011, Japan was forced to shut down all of its remaining nuclear facilities. Already heavily invested in fossil fuel, policymakers and big business made the short-sighted decision to build 50 new coal plants to replace nuclear power generation.
To be honest, I was shocked. Coal power plants produce millions of tons of CO2 per year. They also emit heavy metals and air pollutants, including mercury, that endanger human health and the environment.
Kamiko Hirata has spent over 20 years fighting for stronger climate change policy in Japan. She knew she had to act quickly. Working with her team at the Kiko Network, Kamiko launched a national public awareness campaign.
Construction plans for the new coal plants were spread across Japan, so we created a website to warn the local communities in these areas.
The website was successful in sounding the alarm, but Kamiko needed citizens to take action.
We spoke with professors, lawyers, community groups, and many others to explain the problem and enlist their support. The more people spoke out, the bigger our campaign became.
Despite strong community backing, Kamiko's growing anti-coal network struggled to get the attention of policymakers. So she worked with international partners to turn up the heat.
There was a lot of anger and protest toward Japan. This international outcry was reported by major Japanese news outlets, which helped our efforts tremendously.
Policymakers could no longer ignore the issue. Seizing the opportunity, Kamiko purchased shares of a major Japanese bank and introduced a climate resolution that won enough shareholder support to convince key companies to move away from coal. Part of Kamiko's strategy was laying out solutions to help Japan's energy industry chart a new course.
If financial institutions invest in renewable energy instead of coal, then policymakers and developers will also have to switch their focus to renewables.
3 years after launching her ambitious anti-coal campaign, Kamiko and her network of partners have so far prevented the construction of 13 new coal power plants in Japan, representing nearly 30% of the country's planned coal output. This huge victory prevents the emission of 42 million tons of CO2 per year and protects Japan's people and environment.
Having had some success gives us confidence that we can make a difference, and it gives me the courage to continue this work.
For outstanding environmental achievement for islands and island nations, the 2021 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Kamiko Hirata, Tokyo, Japan. Gloria Majiga Kamoto grew up in the pastoral lands surrounding the city of Blantyre, the commercial capital of Malawi. Small subsistence farms had traditionally been a way of life there. Early on, Gloria worked for the Center for Environmental Policy and Advocacy, where she implemented a program that provided goats to farmers as a way to help enhance their livelihoods. The program proved successful until goats began dying from ingesting plastic shopping bags, which covered the countryside.
The plastics were everywhere and everybody sees them. It was, for me, a realization that we just take so many things for granted. I've used them and I had never thought that they would actually affect somebody's life in that way.
Each year, 75,000 tons of plastic are generated in Malawi, of which 80% is single use. Gloria was concerned about the environmental harm caused by plastic pollution and the mounting threats it posed to the country's wildlife, livestock, and subsistence farmers' livelihoods, as well as threats it posed to sanitation through congested sewage systems.
How many people will experience that kind of loss and that kind of sense of hopelessness in terms of their own livelihood because we're not able to control the situation. I thought that as a country, there has to be more that we can do.
In 2015, Malawi's government had passed a national ban on thin plastics. But several plastic manufacturing companies joined forces, arguing that the ban would cost jobs and hurt the economy, and got a legal injunction to halt it. When the government didn't take action to reinstate the plastics ban, Gloria formed a coalition of activists, NGOs, and farmers to create public pressure toward implementation.
I thought I could be that person. I could bring together people and make sure that that happened. And the first thing that we did was to organize a GoFundMe account that would help us get a lawyer who would stand on our behalf. We brought together the communities that were actually affected and crying out and calling for this ban as well. And we put the stories together and we brought those into the media. And we also organized a huge climate march. It was a lot of fun, but it also made a huge impact because it showed that we were serious, and that scared the hell out of them.
After unrelenting pressure from Gloria's campaign, she and the committed band of communities and activists were rewarded when the High Court ruled to uphold the plastics ban.
We won, and the case was thrown out, and the injunction was lifted, and the band was back in place, and it was the most amazing thing. I was celebrating and dancing and just really happy about it.
For outstanding environmental achievement for Africa, the 2021 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Gloria Machiga Kamoto, Blantyre, Malawi. Bosnia and Herzegovina still bear the scars of war that brutalized the country in the 1990s. But today, the region is better known as a place of beauty and biodiversity, where some of the last undammed rivers in Europe run free. Simply put, our rivers are the blue heart of Europe, wild, untamable, and incredibly beautiful. The Krušica River runs through a 240-acre protected landscape, providing fresh drinking water to nearly 150,000 people. Given its protected status, Maida Bilal was stunned to learn that construction of 2 small hydropower projects was about to begin near her village of Krušica. Small hydropower produces minor amounts of energy, but has a major environmental impact, fragmenting rivers and destroying critical habitat. There was supposed to be a public debate, but the residents were not even aware. I heard the screams. They forcibly pulled out our hair. They beat us and dragged us off that bridge. Maida managed to escape, but many of the women were arrested. When they were finally released, the police asked, "Where are you going?" They all said, "We're going back to the bridge to guard our river." As video of the assault went viral, attracting global support, Maida stepped into a leadership role. I did not consider myself a leader. I was but one among equals. Maida co-founded the Echo Bistro Citizens Association, which supported a lawsuit challenging the legality of the construction permits. We organized protests outside the court around key moments in the lawsuit to build pressure. All the while, Maida did her shifts on the bridge, now known as the Bridge of the Brave Women of Krušica. The blockade became like a living organism. You just know that your heart is leading you there and that you must stay there. Finally, after 504 days, the regional court canceled all permits for the dams. Maida and the brave women of Krušica had triumphed. We want politicians in Bosnia and Herzegovina to understand that we are the corrective force. We are the guardians of this land. For outstanding environmental achievement for Europe, the 2021 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Maida Bilal, Krušica, Bosnia and Herzegovina.
So there you have it. Those are the 2021 Goldman Prize winners. Incredible group of inspirational people. I often say that we are not in the prize giving business as much as we're in the inspiration business. Thousands of people around the world will meet and get to know the Goldman Prize winners. through our online virtual ceremonies, and hopefully in the future back to the in-person ceremonies that so many people have enjoyed in San Francisco and Washington, D.C. Let me turn it over back to Alexandra, or over to Randall, if he is still with us from Cocos Island. Randall frequently makes trips out to Cocos Island, which is off Costa Rica, where he did much of his work that won him the Goldman Prize 11 years ago. So let's hear from Randall and see if he wants to make any remarks about this year's cohort of prize winners and what the Goldman Prize has meant to him over the years.
Randall, you're muted. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, so thank you, Michael, for this great opportunity. And thanks, Alexandra, for setting this up. And thanks to the whole Goldman family. And yeah, first of all, as you know, in all the stories that we see in the Goldmans, I think the message is, don't give up, keep on going. And when you know you're right, and you have the right cause, and you have the laws on your side, you got to keep on going. They're going to try to stop you. They're going to try to make up laws. They're going to try to shoot you down any way they can. And it's just a matter of keep on going, do the activism, round up your communities, and get the pressure building on your politicians. In spite of all the political pressure and the economic pressure that these politicians are under, they still rely on votes. So when they see these masses protesting, and when they see, the whole world seeing what's wrong, then, that's pretty much what can draw the attention of the politicians to act in a different way. They're under all sorts of pressure, but we need to show them that they need to listen to the people. And we have many examples with the Goldman Prizes of, people who don't think they're activists, they don't think they're leaders, but when they find themselves in these situations, they become leaders. And, they won't admit it, but they obviously are leaders, with the capacity to round up the people and, to make these political policy changes, which is where it's all at. The bottom line is we need to get these policy changes done. And, and that's pretty much, the way to do it. Build up the pressure, round up your people, and show your politicians that this is what the people want. And at least for me, well, winning the Goldman Award was a huge opportunity. It gave my campaign so much exposure, worldwide. And even back then, we were talking about no shark finning, bringing, sustainable use of sharks. But after 11 years since I won the award, the situation of sharks has continued deteriorating. Now we have, hammerhead sharks were declared critically endangered a year and a half ago. Now thresher sharks are endangered, silky sharks are endangered. So the situation is getting worse and worse. And we've come to realize that shark finning, we have to stop it. Of course, it's unsustainable. But now we've reached a point where the sharks are going extinct. Stopping the shark finning is not enough. We keep on catching sharks. We keep on eating them. There's still an international commerce of shark fins. And the next step we have to do now is we have to stop fishing sharks. And, we probably can't stop all fisheries, but the way to do this would be, well, restrict fisheries. When we have areas where we have high concentrations of critically endangered species, they need to be fishing free. They need to be no take. We need big no take areas. And the science is showing us that if we want to save these highly migratory species, we need big marine protected areas in the high seas. That will do the job. And now we're working on connecting these areas. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk now too is because I need support again, because, Costa Rica is supposed to be the leader. And right now, Costa Rica is the bad guy. In Costa Rica, we have a great Ministry of the Environment. We have this great wildlife conservation law that considers strict protection for endangered species. But 3 years ago, the president of Costa Rica promulgated through an executive decree that sharks aren't wildlife. Sharks are commercial species. And because of that, they're beyond the reach of the wildlife conservation law, and they're administered by the fisheries department. And now fishing continues. And the worst thing is, this problem is happening from Mexico down to Chile. Throughout Latin America, sharks are not considered wildlife. They're all considered commercial species of fish, and they continue to be fished out. I would like to see Costa Rica lead the charge and change this. Remember, Costa Rica led the charge to list hammerhead sharks under Appendix 2 of CITES. And Costa Rica, back from 2010 to 14, after I won the award, did huge steps in the right direction under President Laura Chinchilla. The president was listening to me. I was friends with the Minister of Environment, and we did great things for sharks. And Costa Rica's profile was way high because that's what everybody thinks and expects of Costa Rica. Costa Rica is the natural nature leader. That's when you talk about Costa Rica, people think about ecotourism, the nature conservation minded country. And I always say, Costa Rica might be green, 22% of our land is protected, whatever. But when it comes to the ocean, Costa Rica is gray, very gray, close to black. It's a very gray country when it comes to marine conservation, and we need to change that. We did great steps from 2010 to 14, but a new president stepped in, new political will, and everything, all the advances we did from 2010 to 14 were all shot down. Imagine in 2013, I led the process in CITES as the Costa Rican scientific consultant, as a member of the delegation, and we were able to list hammerhead sharks under Appendix 2. It was a monumental battle against the Asian countries, and we won by 5 votes. It's 170 countries, and you have to win by a 2/3 majority. And we won just barely because people followed Costa Rica. But in 2016, just 3 years later, Costa Rica was against listing anything. And here I was in CITES fighting Costa Rica with only a 3-year difference. And Costa Rica is getting worse and worse and worse. And right now with this Sharks Aren't Wildlife promulgation, it's leaving us pretty much with our hands empty. What are we going to do next? So right now we kind of like just want to call the attention to the world that Costa Rica is not the green country or the blue country that we're trying to sell. Costa Rica right now is trying to lead the global process to protect 30% of the ocean by 2030. And I say, well, that sounds fantastic, but the current government in Costa Rica just has 8 more months in office. And they're talking about the successes we're going to have 9 years from now. I don't buy it. I say, if you're the politicians in office now, do something now about this. And I just can't see a minister of the environment, trying to protect the oceans and trying to create marine protected areas if they don't think sharks are wildlife and they can't protect wildlife because they have to be fished out by the fishery department. So, we really need to take this shark battle a step further. Most countries have banned shark finning. That's a great thing. But we came to realize already that the problem is not shark finning. The problem is shark fishing. We have very few sharks left. And if we don't get our act together, within 20 years, hammerhead sharks are going to go extinct. And I remember saying the same talk about leatherback turtles in the year 2000, that they're going to go extinct within 20 years with all the overfishing and their incidental bycatch. And now leatherback turtles in the Eastern Tropical Pacific are practically extinct. Our main leatherback nesting beach, Playa Grande in Costa Rica, we got 12 leatherbacks last season, where when I worked as a director of that national park in 1990, we got 1,200 turtles in the season. Last year, 12. So, the impact of fisheries is devastating. And it's not that we have to end fisheries, but we need to regulate them. And part of that regulation is we need big marine protected areas. And we need Costa Rica to step it up. Costa Rica right now is talking about it, but I'm afraid that Costa Rica is just talking about it. We really need Costa Rica to get on the move, and we need Costa Rica to lead this process. So again, thanks to the Goldman Foundation, I've built all this credibility. And I'm not just a little activist now, raising hell. Now I actually, I have credibility. People listen to me and, they try to ignore me. They try to shut me down, but they can't. It's impossible now. I'm a force that they have to reckon with. And a lot of this is due to the prestige of the Goldman Award. It gave me all that credibility I need to keep on going. And I'm sure that most of the winners of the Goldman Awards are going to say the same thing. This Goldman Award, was not just the economic money, because money runs out, but it gives you that prestige and, the credibility that you need to keep on going and to keep on seeking more and more success for the environment and for the oceans, in my case. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, there was a question, if you look in the chat, that
Oh yeah,
Steve put. if you want to read it out loud. What can the average citizen
Okay, yeah,
do?
I see it.
Okay.
Okay, well, I see the question. And as I mentioned, Costa Rica still has an intact reputation. Sometimes I give these talks about what's happening to sharks, and people can't believe it. They tell me, what? But that's Costa Rica. And we haven't wanted to do a campaign to tarnish Costa Rica's image. We think that would be very damaging. You know, it would hurt the tourism activity. But we do need a global movement of the world to tell Costa Rica, we want you to do the right thing. And right now we have a campaign going on. You can check my website, which is, I'm going to write it down here right now. This is our website.
We'll send it out to everybody too.
Yeah. And if you go to our website, you can see our petitions, and you can see the president. And, you know, this is amazing. Our president just 3 weeks ago said on national TV, sharks should be protected as wildlife. That's the only way we're going to save them. And we're like, well, why aren't we? And, you know, the president can fix this situation with the click of his fingers, because sharks aren't wildlife because of a presidential decree. This president can shoot down the decree with the click of his fingers. A decree can get shot down with another decree, but he doesn't want to, because he's under pressure by the Costa Rican fisheries industry. And the pressure we need to show Costa Rica is that the world is watching, and at least from my point of view, I'm not going to let Costa Rica get away with hypocrisy, saying how great we are in the ocean and we want to protect 30% of our ocean by 2030. That's all hypocritical speech. We need Costa Rica to act now, and the authorities right now have 8 months to act before elections. And we expect to see some actions now. We don't want to hear what they're going to do 9 years from now, you know, 2 presidents from now, 2 governments from now. How can they predict what's going to happen by 2030? So let's cut this BS and let's get to saving some sharks right now. And as US citizens, I urge you, please go to our website, sign our petitions, and if you even have enough time, write a letter to the president and, you know, support our campaign and back us up so that Costa Rica knows that the world is watching.
We wanted to open it up to anybody else if they wanted to have some questions or anything that they asked, or
Well,
is this the
I would
first
like
time
to
you've seen these
mention
awards?
something.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to mention something else here. I have this question by Steve Pellets, and at the very end, he's saying, like, what can we do about the bycatch of sharks? I have a huge campaign against a few words here, because the fishing industry has put in our minds that we can take sharks like we were farming sharks. So they talk about harvesting sharks. You go to these fisheries meetings from the tuna commissions, and they talk about the shark harvest. No one is harvesting sharks. This is a wildlife extraction. Nobody planted those sharks or raised them or made sure they were healthy so that they could reach a nice size, and then we can take them and harvest them like they were tomatoes or lettuce. That's not the case. This is ocean bushmeat. This is like going to Africa and shooting chimpanzees. This is what we're doing to our sharks. So there's no such thing as a harvest when it comes to fish. It's wildlife extraction. And when it comes to bycatch, there's no such thing as bycatch. Bycatch is a word that the fishing industry uses to say, oh, it's bycatch. We can't do anything about it. We wanted to catch tuna. Oh, darn, we caught a turtle. We caught a shark. Oh, well, we're going to have to eat it. We're not going to waste it. What we need, the word we need to use is catch and mortality. These are catches and these are mortalities. This is not bycatch. So we need to start getting rid of those words, because that's the wording that the fishing industry and the governments want us to listen to think that it's okay, and it is not.
Just to back up what Randall's saying, I banned my entire staff from using the word harvest with respect to wild animals of any kind, including fisheries, because we harvest what we sow, and we don't sow wildlife for fisheries. We take them from the wild. And the problem, of course, is that we've been doing that unsustainably all over the world. California, when one of the things we learned when we did the shark fin trade ban in California is the rest of the world watches what we do and what we say here in the United States. China subsequently banned the use of shark fin soup at all official functions, banquets, and so forth. Activists in China have tried to get people to stop using shark fin soup at weddings and other ceremonies. Shark fin soup in China is the equivalent of caviar in the West. It's not a staple of the diet. It's a delicacy. So it is entirely possible to change traditions like that and reduce the demand while reducing the supply at the same time, as Randall has been doing in Costa Rica. So that work is just, it's terrific. It has worldwide implications. These shark fishing fleets are very mobile. They take sharks from the high seas, from the waters of countries like Costa Rica and the US. We still have shark fishing off the shore, our shores right here in California, but only for meat. You cannot sell or possess the fins. And there are only a few sharks like threshers and makos that are edible. Most of them are not. So anything we can do, Randall, to help your cause, we will be happy to do. This is a global movement, a global problem, and we need global action to solve it.
Well, thank you very much for that comment. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, no harvest of wildlife. That's just not true.
Yeah, but the use of the word harvest with respect to wildlife was originated by fishermen and others that wanted to use the agricultural lexicon to make what they were doing sound more acceptable. Who objects to harvest, after all? We harvest crops all the time. The trouble is, we don't harvest wildlife because we don't sow it in the first place. Not like corn or rice or soybeans. So it's actually a very misleading term, but it's firmly embedded in the lexicon of fisheries, and we're trying to get it eradicated because it gives the public a very inaccurate picture of what's really going on.
I like that. Anything we can do to shoot down that language in these conventions or just anywhere where it's fisheries, and let's just use the correct wording, not the misleading words.
The other thing I think Randall said that I found very compelling is, fishing for sharks is the marine equivalent of hunting grizzly bears and mountain lions for food on land. As you know, on land, we farm herbivores, we farm cattle and sheep and so forth. We don't farm carnivores for the most part, but in the oceans, many of the top fish that we consume, our favorite species, are all carnivores. They're all the top predators in the food chain, like tunas and sharks and swordfish. It's as if we were hunting lions and tigers on land for on an industrial scale for food, and we've done it for hundreds of years. But it's taken a real toll on the oceans because many of these predators don't reproduce very quickly. A few years ago, Randall, we initiated a campaign in California we called the Sardinistas to try to bring back the sardine to the American palate, because these are small pelagic fishes that are herbivores. They're much more sustainable. You can fish them without really impacting their populations. And they were much more sustainable, much better for you than the big predators like sharks and tuna and swordfish. Those big predators bioaccumulate toxins and heavy metals. It's actually not very good for you to eat them. We know that pregnant women and children are supposed to limit their consumption of tuna because it contains mercury and other heavy metals. Sardines contain none of that. The trouble is, they're not as tasty as tuna and swordfish. So for that reason, our Sardinistas campaign was not entirely successful, but we're still trying.
Got to keep on going.
Other questions for Randall or about the 2021 Goldman Prize winners? One of the things that was mentioned that I know has concerned a lot of people is that Liz Chiré in Chicaje Chiré in Peru was originally nominated as a duo. Her partner, her business partner in the campaign to create Yaguas National Park, which by the way is the size of Yellowstone, died of COVID-19 before the prize could be awarded. So we actually had about 6 prize winners that we know of infected with COVID, including Liz and her husband came down with it. And we spent a lot of money to try to get them appropriate care, because one of the things about indigenous people is when something like the pandemic happens, they respond by retreating farther into the jungle, which compounds the problem of trying to get them adequate medical care. So as I said before, the pandemic hit these rural and indigenous communities very hard. It limited public assembly, naturally, no big groups. And it gave governments who were inclined to do so another reason to clamp down on activism. We saw that all over the world as well. So we spent a lot of money during the pandemic trying to make sure that our prize winners that were infected with COVID got appropriate care, including Liz. appropriate medical care for COVID is hard to find in a place like Iquitos, Peru, right on the Amazon. So we do our best. Alexandra, you had a question.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask the other people that are here if they've attended the Goldman Prize before or knew about it, or is this the first time they're hearing about it? Anybody else wanted to chime in? Okay, it's a quiet group. So I did, Michael, just want to ask you how many people were nominated? Just about the nomination process, because
yeah, so we rely on individual and organizational nominators around the world to bring us candidates for the Goldman Prize. We typically get about 100 to 120 nominations a year for 6 prizes, and my staff spends the entire year whittling down those nominations to the most worthy. We whittle down 120 to about 30, 5 good candidates in each region, each continent. And then we have an international prize jury that meets every November to award the Goldman Prize to decide which are the most worthy of those finalists. And the winners are chosen in November, typically not announced until April. The Goldman Prize ceremony is ordinarily held at the San Francisco Opera House in April, coinciding with Earth Day, late April, because the Opera House is the only venue big enough. We have about 4,000 people that attend. And Randall can tell you, when you come from another country and you are put up at a suite in the Fairmont and you meet 4,000 screaming fans at the Opera House, you really feel like a rock star. And it boosts the gravitas and the spirits of our prize winners, most of whom have been laboring in relative obscurity. It gives them a huge boost in gravitas. And that's the intent. It's not the money associated with the prize as much as what Randall mentioned earlier, the exposure and the increasing gravitas that allows our prize winners to do even more after they win the prize than they did to win it in the first place.
Because for those of you that haven't been to the awards, afterwards, everybody goes over to City Hall and the winners line up and there is a line. So they literally get a chance to meet everybody. It's kind of a whirlwind because then they go to DC. And I didn't know if you want to say something about when they go.
Yeah, the receiving line at City Hall and the reception are very special as well. We have every intention of starting that the in-person ceremonies back next year, April of 2022. So stay tuned for that. I ordinarily invite most of the members of Battery Powered to attend if they would like. The tickets to the Goldman Prize in-person ceremonies are invitation only, and it's the hottest ticket in town. For about 2 weeks in the spring, I'm the most popular guy in San Francisco. But it's because people really want to meet it's a way to recharge your batteries if you've been laboring all year and seems, environmental work sometimes seems futile or that it's impossible to win or succeed. You come to the Goldman Prize ceremony and you'll be convinced otherwise. It's really an opportunity to recharge your batteries and go on for another year. We turn it around about 2 days later. We fly all the prize winners to Washington, D.C., where we meet with members of Congress. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, usually holds a reception for us in her offices. We then go to the National Academy of Sciences, where we do another prize ceremony, a smaller event for people in Washington, D.C., who really need their batteries recharged, because that's a very difficult environment to make progress in. So we introduce the prize winners during this prize tour to other funders and to people we think might be able to help them. So Randall's been to the ceremonies many times, not only when he won the prize in 2010, but in subsequent years as well, to cheer on his brothers and sisters. So we always love to see our alumni prize winners like Randall at the events.
So a little perk for maybe the people
I love going to the events, by the way.
Since they're here, that they know to contact you next year to see if they can get a ticket. So there's another question in there, Randall, in the chat about the tuna.
Okay, yeah, I see it. Do you know the status of tuna and swordfish populations in the Eastern Pacific? Now, first of all, the baseline information is, and this has been published already several times, all marine predators, all their populations are down 90% over the last 50 years. So technically, all these species are endangered because that's the criteria with the IUCN. If a population has decreased 90% in the last 20 years, then it's considered under a threatened status. vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered. So, basically all tuna and swordfish should be in this category, although they are not. Tuna, at least, we have a tuna commission that establishes quota. It's different countries. It's like 21 different countries. But if you look at the tuna data, you're going to see, for instance, some species like big-eyed tuna are already classified as endangered by the IUCN. But the yellowfin tuna, which is the one that we most depend on, it's the most abundant tuna species. And for the last 10 years, this species has been just barely dancing above the sustainable yield. Like just a little bit more and it'll be considered overfished. And, the countries have managed to at least maintain the quotas, but they have not been able to replenish the population. They're not willing to go that extra mile. They want to keep on fishing, and they have not allowed the yellowfin tuna populations to rebound. So for the last 15 years, the yellowfin tuna population has just barely been dwindling on top of the overexploitation rates that are considered. So, again, basically, not only because of sharks, but just for the whole, fisheries in general, we really need to refurbish our fisheries policies. We need some species to be protected fully. We need some areas to be protected from fisheries, and we need management. In Costa Rica and in Latin America, longliners fish year round. Shrimp trawlers fish year round. When you go to other countries that manage their fisheries, like the United States or Australia, you have seasons. 3 or 4 months of the year, you have a season to catch this with these fishing arts. Then another few months, you have another species you're targeting with another fishing art. 1 or 2 months, you don't fish at all. And that way, you give the ecosystems a chance to rebound. But in Costa Rica, for instance, you longline all year round. And when we say, hey, shouldn't there be a closure when there's no mahi-mahi, which is our main fishing resource, shouldn't we try to manage this? And then the fishermen all go, oh no, now they want to starve us to death. And then the government says, oh, you poor guys, we're not going to let the activists get in your way. You can keep on fishing. So, what we really need is fisheries management. And the more we delay that, the more everything is going to get endangered. And the more we're going to need the drastic draconic measures, which are closures in fisheries, because they leave no other option because of all the overfishing. So, yeah, we really need to get our act together on this.
So thank you to everyone that joined us. Thank you, Michael and Randall. This has been recorded, so we'll be sending it out to everybody that's a part of Battery Earth. And then we'll also have a follow-up, because you can go to the Goldman Prize website and see how you can get more involved with the winners and what you can do and continue following them. So we'll send up, you can go to the website. We'll also send an email follow-up that will have the link, so you can even share this with some friends of yours, so that we can raise more awareness about the prize winners and their work and the award.
Well, I want to thank Randall, especially from joining from Cocos. That's above and beyond the call of duty. And thank heavens for satellites is all I can say. And Alexandra, thanks again for organizing this.
So thank you. Thank you, Steve, for joining us too. Okay. Bye, Fati. Bye, Colleen.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you later. I'll see you. Hopefully next year the Goldman event will be with physical presence. So I'm definitely going to be there.
Good. We'll look forward to that.